What are Democrats thinking right now? I don't think they're doing much thinking. Just blame Republicans, blame conspiracy theories, and enjoy being completely politically irrelevant. Because once you get displaced from power, we're not going to give it back. Republicans controlling, Republicans winning over Hispanics will be the nail in the coffin. And we're not going to give that power back.
That ominous message with fun music in the background was from Charlie Kirk on his show. And if some of you think, well, it's Charlie Kirk, he says all sorts of nonsensical things, why even bother listening to what he has to say? His message is very much in line with what Steve Bannon also said recently in a speech. And that speech, I would argue, is actually pretty terrifying because there are some elements to it that are accurate so far, showing that the right-wing quest to take over the country, not just temporarily through electoral politics, but permanently through all these questionable maneuvers is already underway. So let's take a look at the video and then I'll explain what I mean.
We're going to win 80 to 100 seat pickup in the House of Representatives. We're going to win the Senate. We're going to win school boards. We're going to win. We're going to throw out these Soros-backed DAs. We're going to win state legislatures. We're going to win all the secretaries of state that are running. We're going to win the governorships. We're going to win the state legislatures. This is going to be a massive blowout like 1932. You're witnessing right now a political realignment like 1932, and we will govern for 100 years after we win 100 seats. You saw it last night.
Do you want to govern as a one-party kind of total government? Do you want to destroy the Democratic Party?
I believe that we will destroy the Democratic Party as a national political institution. You'll have the Squad and the Progressive Party, and you'll have the neoliberal neocons that the January 6th committee is. You'll have Liz Cheney on one side and Kinzinger, and you'll have Shifty Schiff and Swalwell on the other. A neoliberal neocon that represents Wall Street. A populist uprising of Hispanics, African Americans, and working class people in this country is before us.
So a lot to unpack there. What I found particularly scary was that kernel of truth where he points to a political party that includes the Nancy Pelosi's and the Adam Kinzingers, because we're already experiencing that, keep it real. But the other thing I wanted to draw attention to was he referenced a very specific time, a year in time, and it was 1932. So there are two possibilities. In reality, I think there's only one possibility given we're talking about Steve Bannon there. In 1932, Roosevelt won as president. I don't think that's what he's referring to when he says political realignment. What else happened in 1932? Well, in the July 1932 German parliamentary elections, the Nazis won 37% of the vote. This was more votes than any other party received. In November of 1932, the Nazi share of the vote fell to 33%. However, this was still more votes than any other party won. And the Nazi party's electoral success made it difficult to govern Germany without them. Hitler and the Nazis refused to work with other political parties. German President Paul von Hindenburg gave in and appointed Hitler as Chancellor of Germany on January 30th of 1933.
And they plan to never give power back and have a 1,000-year reign. So the 100-year reign reference is an interesting one. Okay, but the story does require some nuance. So first, on Charlie Kirk, that right there, that simple sentence was the description of the right wing in today's America when he said, we're gonna take power and we're not gonna give it back. Because they're worried because of the demographic shifts, not just racial ones, but ones based on age, that they're about to lose power. Who's they? White people. White right-wingers, not left-wingers. There's the obviously enormous percentage of the country is white and left-wing. But white right-wingers, they say, look, we've had power in this country for forever, and we don't want to give it back. We don't want it. We're going to take it, and it doesn't matter if we get a minority of the vote. We're just going to get into government and never give it back. So that is a fair. Now, the only curious part of that was the porn music in the background, right? As he's saying something super important, like, "Oh, we're going to steal this country and never give it back to you." Boop 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 in the background. You're like, what's going on? Anyway, so now on to Bannon. So it's true that also in 1932, Roosevelt ended the Republican reign in America. So from 1860 to 1932, the Republicans had won, And Roosevelt was the first Democrat to win the popular vote and the electoral vote in 80 years, right? But that's not overly similar to here because Democrats and Republicans have won back and forth. But he certainly could be referring to Roosevelt, and he could be doing what a lot of Republicans do, which is, I have plausible deniability. I could have meant Roosevelt. I kind of, like, if you ask me about it, I'll say FDR.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
So I'm not sure. But the one thing that he was definitely right about, and this is important and interesting and what you will not see in mainstream media, is that in reality, there are three different, and we talk about it here on the show all the time, there are three different factions in American politics. And I don't know if it'll develop into three parties or branches within the parties, but one faction is the one we literally started, you guys, just Democrats. So that's what he refers to as a squad and AOC, et cetera. Those are all just Democrats. That's the progressive wing, okay? So that's populist, it's real, it is incredibly popular. Based on polling of issues, I can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt that is by far the most popular wing of any party in America. Then there's the populist right wing guys who look fondly on 1932 and taking power and never giving it back. And so that's Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Trump, et cetera. And then there's the middle, and that is neocons and neolibs. Those are corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans, especially on economic issues. They are inseparable and you cannot tell them apart. They call themselves Republicans and Democrats, but they almost all vote the same way. They really are, in essence, one giant corporate party. And that's what we're attacking from the left to try to bring democracy back and actually represent the American voters. And that's what Steve Bannon is attacking from the right, hoping to end democracy and preserve power for the right kind of people.
Right, and look, as we speak, at this very moment, there is realistically one dominant political party, regardless of whether or not the politicians have a D or an R at the end of their name, right? The corporate wing of both parties that is the dominant political power in this country. And it's been that way for decades now. Americans have experienced a significant decline in their quality of life since the 1970s as a result of that neoliberal policy that is in fact shared and favored by both corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans. Again, put them together, that's the dominant political party in this country. And we're at a crossroads. Look at the similarities between where the United States and really the world is right now, where developed countries are right now versus where things were, after the Great or during and after the Great Depression. We were at a crossroads. The reason why Roosevelt implemented his New Deal was, yes, because of pressure from labor, but also because, and he said this, he was very transparent and candid about it, we need to save capitalism. Right? If he didn't intervene the way that he did with the New Deal, with serious social spending, well, fascism was rising. That was a huge threat. Calls to end capitalism were rising. He was concerned about that as well. And I'm concerned that we don't have an FDR type leader to pull us out of the possibility of just devolving into a fascist state.
Yeah, and look, I think that another huge problem is that the so-called mainstream media is on one of those three sides, and it's super clear which side they're on, the corporate side. And so they will pretend that there's a real difference between Democrats and Republicans on a couple of social issues and identity politics and culture wars there are. So they focus on those as both sides agree to rob us blind.
Totally.
What's the only thing that's passed in the last 20 years? Tax cut after tax cut after tax cut for the rich.
And defense spending, increased defense spending over and over again, which benefits a small group of corporations that make products for the military.
And deregulation, right, which is, hey, buy any media company you like, buy the tech companies, you get larger and larger and larger. Do not protect your workers, do not protect the American citizens, et cetera. And corporate media never tells you that Republicans and Democrats agree on economic issues. They never tell you that they're robbing us blind and destroying your livelihoods. They are. We're gonna do a story later in the show about how we are drowning in medical debt. Do you see that in mainstream media? They never talk about it. Instead they say, oh, you're gonna get rid of your private insurance. As if private insurance is good. Why? That's their advertisers. that so-called mainstream media are giant billion-dollar corporations helping other giant billion-dollar corporations by pretending that their marketing is news. It isn't news, and it's destroying this country.
The other thing I have to bring up is the fact that really Democrats are asleep at the wheel when it comes to the dismantling of our democratic process, story that barely gets any attention. In New Mexico, the county's Republican-controlled Board of Commissioners has voted unanimously to not certify last week's primary elections. They're refusing to do it. And so the Supreme Court in the state, New Mexico Supreme Court, has stepped in and demanded that they certify the election by Friday of this week. One member of the board was actually present at the Capitol riots on January 6th. And so they apparently have now voted on doing a hand count of the ballots instead of certifying it, even though they know what the election results are. They just apparently don't like the election results. But what's also interesting is that that actually conflicts with state and federal law. So right now, as it stands, as we talk about this story in this very moment, it is unclear what the future holds, what they're gonna do in New Mexico with this Board of Commissioners that's refusing to certify the election.
Yeah, and part of the reason I brought up mainstream media is because they never make any distinctions. They go, the fascists and progressives who want higher wages and better healthcare, they're the same. Radicals, radical outsiders. Don't listen to them, don't listen to them. Back into corporate marketing, okay? Now here, again, with New Mexico, well, you need nuance here. You wanna recount, no problem. You want a hand count, no problem, I agree. You want verification of the votes, no problem, I agree. A lot of right-wing knuckleheads will find old tweets of mine, they're like, you want to verify the vote too? Of course I do, you schmucks. And by the way, when corporate media says, you don't have to verify any vote, are you nuts? Of course you have to verify the vote. No, just trust that a corporation made a deal with politicians and it's okay. No, let's verify. That is different than saying, yeah, we did a count, we did a recount, we did a hand count. I'm not gonna certify. I don't care.
Yeah.
The people I wanted to win didn't win. So screw democracy. I'm not gonna do it. Well, do you have any evidence? Because if you have evidence, I'll join you. If you have evidence saying the Dominion switched any votes, I'll go nuts. I will definitely join that effort. I don't want any elections being stolen. You think they're gonna give elections to progressives? No, they're not. That's not who corporations are gonna steal it for. But you don't have any evidence. You never have any goddamn evidence. We're not the same. The right wing has lost their minds. They don't care about facts or reason. And the corporate wing has been lying to you for the last 40, 50 years straight.